guys, what is going on? Redmash here, and welcome back to the Cards and Castles video, where we have a bit of an interesting, different video for you. I mean, I don't know how this is going to go, but, I mean, we're going to roll with it. Sort of a general discussion on maybe something that's going on in the world in CNC, or if we just want to talk about something and bring you guys what we're thinking about. That's what this series is for. And speaking of, you heard that plural in there. I do have multiple guests with me on this one. Of course, you guys are already familiar with Super Baseball.
Hey guys.
And new to the fold is Dolphin Lettuce. How you doing, man?
What's up? I'm doing pretty good.
Alright, so we're just going to be basically discussing, we are all Cards and Castles players. Obviously, why would we be here if we were not? So we're going to kind of just bring this into a direction and see where it goes. And that direction is going to be the shameless plug Meta Monthly decks. Now, I did post that video, I think, by the time this goes out, I believe it was yesterday that I made it. So it's been about 24 hours since that video went live. So I mean, let's just kind of hop in there. What do you guys think about, or at least my opinion of the meta decks? Or do you agree? Do you disagree? Let's start with that.
I guess I'll go first. I definitely agree with the three decks. I've been seeing a lot more of the green-white decks since the update, especially Fenrir Scope, Ramp Range, whatever you call them. They've been really powerful. I've been seeing a lot more. I like it. I think it's a very good deck. I understand why it's gotten into the meta, and
I mean,
I really hope
it's virtually been untouched in terms of like the update and the patch. Like pirate cards, the only things, and I did mention this in the video, that were hit were Witch Doctor and Salahar Voyager, both of which didn't receive a major hit.
I feel like for Witch Doctor, it got a huge hit, but only when you're running a yellow deck, because. Or Crusader or Pirate deck, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Because on offense, you just have Flower Knight, which is better on offense, and on defense, you have Hossen City Guard. So I don't feel like there's any use for it when you're running a Crusader or Pirate deck, but really when you're running any type of other deck, it's only -1 attack, so it's really not that big. The only big thing I see from that is the fact that it trades with Barb now, and that's a big hit when it comes to just taking damage, and the fact that it also deals 3 damage too when it dies.
It's more of a double-edged, risky sword nowadays. So, I mean, with that in mind, Dolphin, do you have any sort of comment on the pirates being untouched? I mean, it kind of goes into the same. It's basically.
Well, I think the Salahar nerf wasn't like too big because let's be honest, people only used it for the 6 gold,
And I mean, they still do.
Yeah.
So the -1/-1 wasn't much of a hit at all. But the Witch Doctor not trading with Barb is insane.
It's big. It definitely brings it down a peg.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely something that we should keep an eye on, and hopefully it does get addressed, because there are a multitude of other pirate cards that we're seeing that really haven't been touched. I mean, what do you guys think should be addressed from the pirates? We'll start with you this time, Dolphin. Is there anything that you would like to see hit personally?
In the pirates?
Yeah, like within the faction as a whole. Things that may, like, without Witch Doctor and Voyager, since they've already kind of been hit in a way, what do you think needs to be addressed in the near future if we want to just stabilize the pirate faction a little bit more?
I think Mercenary Execution shouldn't give Treasure 2.
Whoa, really? Wow, in my opinion, that's actually one of the worst cards in the pirate faction. I actually find I never use that in any of my decks.
Well, then what do you use as your removal for pirates, or do you just rely on the other factions?
I use 3 Phantom and 3 Scope as my removal, since I usually run monster mid game. My main deck is a monster mid game ramp, so I just rush the opponent, and then if they are able to gain the advantage, I'll Scope or Phantom my big units, mainly Minotaur or Grendel, in order to take them out, and that always helps. Just Mercenary Execution, the only way I only ever see it being used is against Magic Eater. And if I'm going to use that against Magic Eater, why not use Burning Sun instead? And I've tried Burning Sun, and it doesn't work. It's like Eid says, it's a reaction card. Mm-hmm. It's not good for those rush decks.
Okay, so then going back, Dolphin, what makes it, the Treasure 2 in Mercenary Execution that you think should be addressed?
Honestly, my only gripe is that mercenaries are paid soldiers, so you shouldn't get paid for using the card. That's really that's the only reason I didn't like the treasure too.
Thematic issue rather than an actual.
But if we're talking about actual things, I heavily dislike that scope gives a +1 health buff.
I completely agree. The fact it gives +1, it even like the big thing for what I see is Craxus I guess Craxus is part of Crusaders, but just think maybe Minotaur and Grendel with scope. They don't trade with what's the 7 card? Northland's Ranger. Because normally if they wouldn't give the +1 health, you could hit the Ranger and then they trade.
Yeah.
Which would be bad. But here they don't trade. They have 1 health at the end, which can be big in some scenarios.
And that goes back to the fact that it's the reason why. I mean, honestly, scope, I think, is a big reason as to why we've personally seen Druid Pirate take over as a top emerging meta deck.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely agree, yes.
Scope with Rampage is just deadly.
Yeah, we've seen that in Fenrir. We've kind of seen it in Bear Hog as well. Much less than we do Fenrir, but Bear Hog still kind of runs in that same regard. And then, of course, giving Bestial Rage to any sort of unit is incredible. Yeah. It's a combination truly not worth fighting against, but I mean, maybe that kind of sounds wrong, but you guys understand where I'm coming from with that.
Definitely.
And then again, on top of that, you've got companions, ramp, all these different things, which have just led to an incredible surge in that deck. I mean, where do you guys see Druids going, though, from here? Like, now they have a small foothold. They are still an incomplete faction, but with the Pirate Druid, solidifying itself, in the meta, what do you think that means for Druids as a whole?
I think it's actually really good. More people are starting to experiment with it and see that it can be used very well in some circumstances to create an extremely good deck. So the main one before this was really red-white. Red-white. And that was great, but it relied a lot on luck and your opponent not having a good hand, not having Hostile City Guards. So I feel like them now having a deck that's really good, that doesn't require luck, it'll definitely create a lot more decks that have white in them.
So then, what were you thinking, Dolphin, though, with Druids? Do you have a similar idea?
For how Druids is going?
Or like how do you think that with this deck, the green-white inside the ladder and a very competitive deck, where do you think that means for Druids?
I think it means that I don't know, honestly.
You just have no opinion. I mean, they are an incomplete faction, so I mean,
for being an incomplete faction, they are very strong, though.
Yeah, I'm scared for what's gonna happen when they do get a few more cards, because even adding another Spirit Link card or Rampage card, it could completely destroy the meta.
We are expecting more Druid cards. I can tell you that right now. For this being incomplete, I mean, nothing is confirmed. I mean, you expect me to be the beta tester giving you guys secret spoilers here. I mean, nothing is confirmed, but I do know that there is just the plan to finish the Druid faction. I can give that to you.
That's awesome.
So, but it goes back to what you said. I feel like it's very fragile at the moment. So, anything like that can definitely break up the Druid faction as we know it. Alright, so this brings us to our second topic, which of course, going by our order of descending decks at this point, we'll move on to deck number 2 of the Meta Monthly, and that is the Last Will. So, obviously, with the recent hits 2 cards in the Crusader and Warlock faction, of course the good stuff has, again, somewhat decreased in play. But, of course, Last Will, they haven't been touched at all, so they're still running rampant. How do you guys feel about Last Will?
Flamestorm got hit, actually, though.
Well, yeah, but, okay, that is true. But, Last Will in general, I mean, do you still think it deserves its place where it is, or do you think, I don't know, how do you guys feel about it? Start with you, Dolphin.
It's definitely still meta, I'm gonna say. And it's still very strong, purely just because you're still running Crusader and Warlock. So you have the burn, you have the heal, you have what you need to win. Not to mention all of the Last Will cards that you can play with Arcanon.
The general,
what's the dude's name?
No, the general.
Yeah, Arcanon General. Just to get like all these really good Last Will, especially when you mix it with the Terrius Files. There's some hella good Last Will right there.
Definitely agree though. The Terrius Files is really the main thing in that deck. I think it definitely deserves its place. I'm not the biggest fan of the deck just because...
No, neither am I.
I don't really like the playstyle. It's very, very defensive. You have to wait, set things up, then get your Andrew out, and then use all your last will with General. And that's just not something I love to face, but I definitely understand why it's that high, and that's just because...
Once it happens, it's scary.
Exactly. It becomes like 20, 23, or something huge like that.
It just... 8-11... Andrews.
They're crazy.
Andrew. I mean, do you guys think there's going to be any expansion outside of Red Yellow for them, though? Looking at the other cards, I mean, you've got some Pirate Last Will, you've got Viking Last Will, but, like, do you think it will ever expand outside of those colors? Do you think just it will permanently stay within the confines of Red Yellow?
I really, really hope that it moves to Red-White, because you don't have too much Last Will in Red-White, but all Red-White I really love, especially since the main one right now is just Rush, and yeah, I'd like that to branch out to more decks within that faction combo.
I don't know if I could see that working though, because the only difference that you have in the white is you lose the option of Files and none, but you gain the prospect of Wolf.
Yeah, that's all you gain.
Is that like a fair Wolf trade? And then the what's it? The eight cost Wolf.
The pack.
The pack of wolves.
But they're all still wolves.
Yeah, it's true. But with a great play I was thinking of was turn 6 General, turn 7 Andrew, turn 8 pack of wolves. That's just incredible.
Have fun setting that up.
Yeah.
yeah. It's like
It's a bright idea, but the execution. There's a lot of factors that can really hurt that, especially because it's so late in the game.
Exactly. Like a simple Minotaur would destroy that entire thing.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's definitely hard.
Yeah. I just that's fair though. Having that little promise aspect of red white, is I guess out there. I wouldn't say it's far fetched. You're losing the Tarius Files, which is a big plus for the deck.
Tarius Files is without Files. I really think Last Will doesn't have any. Like, it can't be a good deck.
I mean, None you can live without, obviously. Because
I don't want None.
Yeah, she's a little expensive anyway. But the loss of Files is very big for a Last Will deck. So if you're willing to take that risk, be my guest. But outside of White, I don't think it can run anywhere else. Because nothing else has, substantial Last Will. Ninjas have Kaiju. Vikings have the Grudge Bearer and Lich. And then the Pirates have Manfish, Spitefish, and Witch Doctor. So.
And in some of those, most of those are against you, like Lich and Witch Doctor. You don't want to trigger those Last Wills. So I definitely feel that the only other one I could see some prospect in is Green-Red, but there are just so many better decks to run in Green-Red. Just a simple ramp monster mid-game deck is so much better in Green-Red than a Last Will Green-Red deck would be.
Okay. No, that makes sense. But then, also going back, I mean, not for faction purposes, but let's talk about the neutrals for a minute, because those, even though, I mean, they play, let's admit here, they play a big portion of the deck. You have to admit that. With the abilities that they have, I mean, you obviously have the cheaper side of the spectrum with the neutrals, but still, Lumberjack, Rider, Sunflower, and Banshee, all effects that you would want to occur multiple times. So, I mean, for that being in neutral, I mean, do you guys believe that they should be moved elsewhere, or they should be, slightly modified? I mean, I want to hear your thoughts on, like, the neutral side of Last Will, because that's just, besides Andrew, of course, like, we're talking the units in general. So, I mean, baseball, what are you thinking about the neutrals?
I think they should 100% stay in neutral, because most of them are not just used in Last Will. Lumberjack, Solihull Rider, even Sunflower, they're used in a lot of decks as just auto-include cards. I include Lumberjack in every single deck I play with, and moving that to another faction would destroy a lot of the reliability of decks in general. And with Salaho Rider, that's an amazing way to take out Hosting City Guard turn 1 or turn 2. And I think they should stay in neutral.
But then I raise you this: what if they keep their abilities, but instead of supporting Last Will? So like, say a Banshee's I don't know, for shits and giggles, let's just say like Initiative is provide you with a minor spell card. Like, would that be a better idea to lessen the support of Last Will, or do you think that they just should remain the same? Like, no matter what, they should just remain a Last Will based neutral.
Do you mean like only Banshee changing, or
no, like in general? I just use Banshee as an example, of course.
Okay. I feel like we would be basing too much stuff around Last Will, because Last Will neutrals, yes, they're good, but the neutrals have a more far-reaching range in terms of the decks they're using than just Last Will. If we move into with 2 initiatives, we'd be focusing too much on Last Will, and say if we gave Lumberjack Initiative instead of Last Will, that'd be very, very different. That'd be so much better than it was right now.
Yeah, no.
So, yeah.
And then, I mean, Dolphin, I kind of skipped over you about this, but, like, what do you have, like, the same sentiment about neutrals, or do you have something like a different idea?
Yeah, I think they should definitely stay the same, especially, like, Banshee. The fact that it's Last Will is pretty good, but, like, the fact that it's undead also just helps, like, a lot of undead decks. And if you put that into a specific faction, a lot of these decks are going to take some hard hits, like Reanimate,
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. I didn't really think about Reanimate, but, I mean, then again, Reanimate is slowly... It exists. It's just not a very prevalent option. I mean, I've seen it run, but I get the idea. It's like, you don't want to hurt too many of the other decks. I mean, if you targeting Last Will, you might hurt some others in the process. I guess that's what the basic idea that we're trying to get at is. Okay, so then I guess we can move on in the sense that what about the rest of the Last? Like, we'll actually step away. How do you guys feel about the support that the Last Will decks have? Like, that makes them, just as strong when you're talking about the other stuff, I guess, is kind of a way to put it. Things like the burns, heals, like how you guys have, like, do you have a thought about that, Dolphin? Start with you on that.
I feel like that's one of the major reasons that Last Will is actually probably good. I mean, Last Will in itself is pretty strong. You're getting a lot of draw from Arcanon, and your Andre is being a buff boy. Like, he's big. But then, just because since you're running Warlock, you have all these burns. If they place a building down, that's gone, And if you take too much damage, you just use Arbiter, and that's just all healed up. And hell, you can even use Arbiter to kill their castle if it needs be.
I guess, but then, what about the one? Because I have seen, surprisingly enough, a lot of Last Will decks are also seemingly including Witch Bolt. Do you guys have an opinion about that? I mean, like, do you guys think that Witch Bolt's a solid addition? I mean, a 1 gold for 4, one gold for 4 damage, but you are giving your opponent a card. Like, does that seem worth it for Last Will?
I feel definitely Witch Bolt is a great addition to Last Will because, like Dolphin said, with General and Terius combined, you should have a full hand at most times. And giving your opponent 1 card for a 2 gold advantage between Blue Fire and Witch Bolt is so big. And even like Banshee plus Witch Bolt to take on a Minotaur. Yes, you're giving them some card advantage, but that's 4 damage that you're dealing with only 1 gold. So I think it can be used in so many different ways to gain an advantage over your opponent.
I guess.
Yeah.
I just have the play style personally. I mean, I know there are others who share the sentiment out there, but like, I'm one of those guys that doesn't like to give my opponent any extra resource or advantage against me. So that's
I hate Witch Bolt.
Yeah, like, I mean, I don't. Even back when we had the old Elvish Hunter, which, for those of you who don't know, she would give the opponent, or whoever she was being played against, she'd give them like a free 3 gold under unit into her hand. And that's like, even though the Hunter was a great card in terms of, like, she got, good movement, good range stat line, I just never could get behind her because I hated giving a card to my opponent, and I kind of feel the same way about Witch Bolt. It just doesn't really, cater to me anyway. But I guess baseball shares a different sentiment than I do.
I don't. I use Blue Fireball probably as much as I use Witchbolt. I find Witchbolt can just be used with two Blue Fireball, 2 Witchbolt, or any kind of combination of those just to get you more burn, which you always want in those types of decks. Don't get me wrong, I hate giving my opponent card advantage as well.
Yeah.
I just feel like if you use Witchbolt correctly, it can really be a huge help to you instead of your opponent.
Yeah, no, I get that. And on the topic of removal, I did want to bring this up as well. How do you guys feel about the recent Magmasaur buff, as in, you know, the cost reduction and slight stat line reduction? I mean, do you guys feel like that impacts the removal scene a bit more in Warlock? Because people are seeing it, or at least some people are seeing Magmasaur, you know, more as a removal tool rather than a Dino archetype card. So, like, Dolphin, do you have an opinion on, you know, including Magmasaur in more decks than just dinosaurs?
I don't know about including it in more decks than just dinosaurs because it is pretty weak. But just for the explosive 3, if your opponent puts a building anywhere by their castle, it's just you can kill that. But then again, you're also putting your Magmasaur in hit range, so it's kind of a
I guess it's more like a risky play. I mean, do you have anything to add onto that, baseball, in terms of like Magmasaur?
A lot of people think that, you know, Alter and Flamestorm or Arbiter are the biggest changes of the patch. I definitely think Magmasaur is the biggest change. The cost reduction and a bit of stat reduction, just the cost reduction is so huge because it can be used to take down buildings, change your opponent's playstyle. It's like a mini chain lightning for warlocks. And that's the biggest part about Chain Lightning, is it forces your opponent to play differently than they normally would, and that's a huge advantage in card games. So I just think Magmasaur I use it in many other decks than Dinosaurs, although it does shine in Dinosaurs because throw out a Dino Nest, and now it's a 4/4 explosive 3, and that's just incredible.
Oh, yeah.
I am kind of curious, though. I mean, I think people have tried this already, but I've always been curious about making a Magma Chain deck. Of course, like, you know, using Magmasaur's explosive 3 to proc multiple Chain Lightnings. It's possible.
That definitely sounds interesting.
It's trippy. I'm gonna admit it is trippy.
Yeah, doesn't Combustion with School of Magic do that too?
Yeah.
That's
it goes
insane.
back to the whole
AoE stuff.
Yeah, but like I'm trying to remember because there are terms for it. It's like a multiplier and like a stack. Is it a stack? I don't remember. It's those kind of new mechanics that was slipped in without really people knowing about it until it really hit them head on. In which case, it's like you really got to be careful with Explosive and Thunderstrike nowadays because they can pull off some crazy shit, man. Some crazy.
Oh yeah.
Crazy shit.
Yeah, they're crazy.
But hey, I mean, I think Magmasaur was still a great change overall. I guess we may not see him outside dinosaur decks, but I still have that faith that if buildings continue to be more of a problem, maybe people will start looking to Magmasaur. Because you never know. You really never know. Anything can occur in this game that just, whew, it can blow your mind with. Yeah. It's crazy stuff. But yeah, I think that's pretty much wraps it up for Last Will. Any like final thoughts you guys have in regards to the deck itself or how it's proceeding in this day and age?
Not really.
Not really, no.
All right, so I think that pretty much covers our Last Will. All right, so the last deck that I decided to, or thought that was necessary to include on this edition of Meta Monthly is the continuing trend of School Deck. It was still a very powerful deck if played correctly. So let's get some thoughts on that. Dolphin, what are you thinking about the School Deck?
I think it's very strong, and if you can play it right, you just demolish your opponent without them having a single chance of recovering. Okay. I mean, with School of Knowledge, you're just drawing and drawing and drawing, and then with Pirate, you're coining into all these huge units. Mm-hmm. But I just don't think it's that reliable.
Well, yeah. But I mean, like, did you have anything else? I mean, from what I've seen, School Deck is still it's probably one of the popular choices going around right now because of people still want to cling on to the Arbiter. Personally, is what I'm seeing. Then they're afraid to go into combat without heal. Do you have anything to add to that, Baseball?
I think Arbiter plays a part in it, but it's also the fact that just School's amazing power to outdraw your opponent in every way. There's no deck I've seen that can outdraw School on a reliable basis. Mm-hmm. Some decks can do it, Traps, Awaken, they can do it, but it's School. You already have the amazing power of Ramp, and Ramp by itself is incredible. You can get to Dramith, you can get you can get big cards out fast to overrun your opponent. And with School added on, it's just you don't stop ramping and you don't stop throwing out big units, and your opponent doesn't have it. Like what Dolphin said, your opponent doesn't have a chance to recover.
Yeah. So, but School decks don't entirely run on Ramp alone. Obviously, the support that goes behind it is insane. Not to continue on the trend of Arbiter, because we pretty much beat that horse with a stick. But things like Kraxus, Flux, Minotaur, Pegacorn, all still very prevalent in the deck. Which adds on to the amazing reliable draw power that it has. Like, it goes back to what you said. No deck can outdraw School, which is insane.
Yeah. I want a deck. My main deck is a green-yellow ramp deck with no School. It doesn't have a School in it.
Okay.
It functions on things like Southport Captain, Dread Pirate Robins, and a monster mid-game to rush my opponent.
The monster package, basically, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Voyager deck or whatever. And Kraxus, reliably, along with Scope, it's so incredibly good. I don't think I can think of a combo in the game that's better than that.
And that's another thing. You do have the Scope as well with the Pirate support. Because no card can basically beat the Scope right now. No matter what you are, I personally think that if you are not Scope, you do not contend with Scope.
Yeah, just Scope is incredible. And with the fact that Kraxus has Deflect and it can't be targeted by Burn, that takes away Scope's weakness. And it's just, yes, incredible.
Dolphin, are you kind of feeling the same thing? What do you got going on?
About...
Well, like, and the support of School decks, like, Scope, Kraxus, Minotaur, all the monster, or like what? Monster.pak package or something like that. That's not even real.
Yeah.
That's not even real lingo. I just made that up on the spot. But like, what are you feeling over there?
It definitely has enough support that even if you don't draw School, you have a pretty big chance of winning. Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I'm waiting for no. Here's the thing, and we're gonna do this on camera, right? Because I am waiting for the opportunity for Dolphin. I've given him multiple opportunities. Like even one of
I don't know which one to take.
You're just like I'm waiting for you to come back with the Awakening stuff because you were all on a train of Awakening is better than School like 5 minutes ago.
Well, I thought I was supposed to be supporting School, but.
No. This is your opinions, man. This is your opinions.
Yeah, okay. In my opinion...
See, there you go.
I think School is asked to fight, but I think Awaken is a lot better than School.
Okay.
Especially with the new patch where Sleeping Dojo can draw you a card on Awaken. That fixes the biggest problem of Awaken decks. And now they can just get these super buff units with Meditation, Ceres... what's that one? Gollum. Is that just his name? Gollum?
Sentry Golem.
Yeah, that's
He's pronouncing it like it's the Lord of the Rings Gollum.
Well, he gets so buff, and you just can't stop that. Well,
I have to disagree with you here. I don't think that draw was Awaken's worst weakness. In my opinion, Awaken's worst weakness is Rush. Because
they need that extra turn.
They need that extra, exactly. They need that extra turn. If you rush them, take out their Sleeping Dojos, or even don't even care about the Sleeping Dojos because you're not going to give them enough time to awaken, their Sentry Golems, why care about an 0-5 on the field? Because those aren't going to do anything. If you're rushing their castle with a Minotaur and a Grendel, they're done.
Sentry Golem is 5 gold, the Minotaur is 6 gold, so...
Okay, well, let's say with School. turn to
hold on. I do think that I'm on baseball's side where draw wasn't really the Awakening's problem. If you really wanted a Awaken deck based on draw, you can actually we've experimented this back when we were testing around with the Enchanted Grove, but Crusader Awaken was a viable option actually when we were testing it, because you had the draws obviously from Divine Knowledge, Forbidden City at the time, and your reawakening tools, Rite of Awakening, Saurus, they were there. The dojo provided simple stat buffs, which kind of reinforced that Golem was was supposed to end up being your big tank, but I definitely think that Awakening never had that draw problem, I think is what I'm ending up trying to say here, because you could always go towards the yellow-red and still get a little more than the purple you can leave behind some of the purple aspects in favor of some of the heals or Crusader elements.
So you're talking about a red-yellow Awaken?
Yes, that was and yes, I have played around with it actually a bit. I actually was I experimented a bit with adding it with Dragon Synergy to create like this Dragon Awaken
Synergy?
Bait. Yes, I don't know if I still have it. I think it might be somewhere on the channel. I think if I did, maybe I didn't. I don't remember. But yeah, it was and the prospect still works. And out of the Awakening decks, I kind of classify them as having 3 main combinations. Obviously the purple-red, the green-red, and the red-yellow. That's kind of what I classify Awakening as nowadays. I mean, did I just blow your mind with that?
I definitely agree. There are many different Awaken decks that are played in the meta right now. I definitely feel like purple-red is the main one. I face it and I get destroyed by it all the time.
Well, because then again, it's also the Shodan buff is, bro.
Oh, Shodan is huge. Shodan is, yes. And it's also the fact that Shodan isn't reliable on damage. Shodan is reliable on... Shodan doesn't rely on damage. It relies on movement, and then, since you're running red, explosive. So Burning Sun doesn't do anything to Shodan, because Burning Sun destroys the rest of the deck. And that's... Yeah, I feel like Burning Sun's probably the worst weakness other than... second worst weakness other than Rush.
Okay, so then going back to Dolphin, why... I mean, I think we cut you off too heavily on your opinion there, but you were continue with what you were doing with Awakening, and why do you still think it's... Because, I mean, its problem, I think we've pretty much established, wasn't too much on the draw, but, I mean, what do you think is the main reason, I mean, aside from maybe Sleeping Dojo, that they've been helped so much?
Why they've been helped?
Yeah, or like, how come they've risen to this much prominence?
Well, I think this also does go back on the draw, because before Sleeping Dojo, in fact, wasn't this in the patch notes that Ventre said the problem with Awaken is you spend all of these cards in one unit, and if that unit goes away, your hand is just empty?
I don't know if he said that. I know with the Sleeping Dojo, he kind of shifted the focus from Awakening away from simple stat buffing. Because originally that was what the faction was supposed to do, right? Just let me continue to steadily increase my stats with every reawakening via the dojo, which obviously we see didn't turn out too well.
Hey, I have the developer's notes right here, Red.
Oh, you actually brought them up. All right, I see you. So what do you got?
The previous ability here simply made Awaken combos give more stat presence, which was generally not needed. Changing this to a card generating engine helps cover a critical weakness of Awaken decks and should make the archetype more viable.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, we can admit that it was a problem, but I don't think draw was the main problem. He did say a critical weakness.
A critical problem, or a critical weakness. Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but critical is pretty critical to me.
Great definition, bro. Critical is pretty critical.
but what made Awaken so good is Shodan's buff, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If anything, baseball, I know you had Magmasaur as the biggest buff. I'd have to disagree with you. And now that we're looking, now that we have it in front of us, I have to go with Shoten. Shoten was always my biggest, surprise buff, or like the biggest buff out of the entire patch list, personally, because the jump from from 6 to 8 is huge for him, considering where he is and what he can do.
Yeah.
But what about Doom?
Did you say what about Doom shit? Is that where you're going? Are you bringing up my Doom shit?
There you go. Yeah.
Shit, dude.
No, I definitely agree. Shoten's buff was very big, and that's definitely one of the main reasons that Awaken's become a big deck recently.
Probably. Yeah. So, Dolphin, in your humble opinion, you think Awaken over Trump's School?
Hell yeah.
Okay. See, that's fair. And this is what we've been trying to get out of him the entire time that we were trying to bring up the school decks.
You probably set me up with so many ways to get into this.
Watch the tape back when this goes live. Watch it back, and you can see every opportunity. You can pick it out for yourself. But hey, we're learning here. This is the first of potentially many. We don't know yet. We'll see. Gotta see how you guys like this. If you don't like it, then we'll shut our mouths. Because we all know the fans are the ones who's right?
Yeah.
So I think, do you guys have any more thoughts on either School or Awakening at this point? I think, because we discussed both of them. So
no, not really.
We've covered everything
pretty much.
All right, I think we have, according to the team. So, whew. Alright guys, so with that being said, that's going to do it for our first of potentially, hopefully, many discussions to come. This was enjoyable. I mean, we did have some interesting discussions here, and maybe as we can go on, you guys can suggest topics to us. Tell us what you guys want to hear from us, because it's important that if we are to continue this series, we want to be able to share our thoughts on what you guys want to hear, not just what we want to talk about. But yeah, I think that pretty much covers it. Dolphin, any last thoughts from you? Baseball, any about the discussions, about continuing, anything like that?
Nothing. No, not really.
Not for now. Okay, well, that's a great way. So with that being said, if you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to like it, share with your friends, and comment down below your thoughts on our discussion. Like I said, while you're in the comments, be sure to leave some suggestions for any potentially future topics that we should cover here on the channel. And while you're down there, if you haven't done so already, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Make sure you show your support to the channel by clicking that subscribe button, helping us grow the channel. It's very, very appreciated. So, for Dolphin Lettuce, for Super Baseball 101, and for myself, that's all from us for now. So until next time, guys.
Stay gaming.